today's video on how to integrate SOAR and Enterprise Security together. The concept is you get tickets, how can you send them to SOAR and have SOAR update your tickets and send them back? And for this, we're gonna cover a bunch of different sections here. First, this video is gonna be a little more in depth. Please look down below if you want to jump to the different areas in the video. That'll make things easier if you already understand some of the concepts. But the first thing you got to do is you got to set up your connections. You got to set up your connection between Splunk and to SOAR, and SOAR to Splunk. I actually specifically called it out Splunk because it's not about how Enterprise Security connects to SOAR. It's how Splunk does. One of the things that people forget is Enterprise Security is really just an app inside a search head or a Splunk instance. And so what you're really doing is you're trying to configure your Splunk instance to be able to talk to SOAR. I know it's little semantics, but it does actually make a difference if you're trying to troubleshoot and understand what's going on. So we're going to talk how to set up Splunk, go into SOAR, then we're going to send how to SOAR send stuff to Splunk, and then we're going to configure some playbooks on, well, really a playbook on SOAR to receive a ticket and handle it, and then we're going to set up adaptive response in Enterprise Security to send tickets to SOAR. So anyway, let's just jump in on that, and the last section we'll cover is problems, and we'll come back to that in a minute. But basically the principle is we're going to go through each of these and let's do it. So if I jump over to my Splunk instance, I've got Splunk here. I've already downloaded from Splunk the Splunk app for SOAR export. You can go to Splunk base, just look up Splunk SOAR. There are two apps. One is Splunk app for SOAR and one's for SOAR export. You need the export piece. That means basically, how do I send logs from Splunk to SOAR? I'm exporting them. You'll go get that. You'll go click it. And you'll have event forwarding. We're not going to mess with that. We're going to go to configurations. And what we want to do is we want to go get these configurations set up. I already have one set up. I've called it Phantom. But if I want to create a new server, it's going to prompt me for an authorization configuration and a name. And so what I need to do is I need to jump over to SOAR. I'm going to go into administration, grab my user accounts. And so if I go to user management, users, I'm going to grab, this is my little search head development. Notice it's a roles automation. There, I've got foo. That's who I'm using. It looks like roles automation. And you can make a new account, and you want to make sure it's a automation account. You'll give it a name, save it, etc. And what you're going to do, for example, if I make my foo account, I'm going to click these three dots, hit permissions. That tells you what I've got. Doesn't really matter. We're going to go click here, open on the name, and we're going to see this little authorization configuration for REST API. Notice this thing is written in stars. You don't want to copy stars, so you want to hit show token. The token will appear, and you'll copy that over. Sorry, you'll be over here. You're going to now come over to your Splunk app. When you create a server, I'm going to put this here, and I'm going to put this new Phantom. And I don't need to click anything else. And I'll hit save. You want to make sure that your HTTPS certificates match. If they don't, you'll need to fix that. Don't worry, I can show you how to do that another time. I have videos on that. Follow the playlist. And anyway, so I'm not 100% sure why that failed on me. Try that again. The exact same thing. I did nothing different. Welcome to a YouTube demonstration. So anyway, you just copy that and paste it. New server configuration's ready. I can manage and I can come here and test at any time, make sure my connectivity is running. It's good. I'm going to get rid of this because I don't need a second one. I already have one working, and I'm going to leave it as Phantom, the original Phantom. And you can go in, you can see the exact same thing. If I go click Phantom, and I hit Manage, Edit, I can see my settings, and there's my authentication token inside of it. So it's all set up. That's all you need to do. With that being done, Phantom is now set up. Once you do this and you've made playbooks, you can always come in here and hit sync playbooks. Since I'm making a playbook afterwards, I'm going to come sync my playbooks after I make my playbooks. I'll show you why this is important. We're going to come back to it, but you'll want to remember the sync playbooks. So going back to my little checklist here, we have got Splunk to SOAR working. Splunk is now sending logs to SOAR. We now need to set up SOAR to Splunk. So if we want to go do that, I'm going to jump over here. We're going to go to SOAR, and we need to go to our apps, applications. And by default, you'll usually have this, but you're looking for the Splunk Publisher Splunk app. And if you look at it and you go into, there are some other Splunk apps, this is SSH, this is Splunk, HTTP. You're looking for Splunk. And you can search for it just by typing in Splunk. You won't find much in the configure because that's already there. But if I go and configure unconfigured apps, I can see it. Go grab your Splunk if it isn't already in your configured apps. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to configure an asset. Right now I have one asset and that's pointing to my main indexer. I'm going to make a new action. But in order to do that, we're going to go configure a new asset. I'm going to call it Enterprise Security. You are going to need to make sure that you point to your enterprise security instance, because what this particular app is going to do is it's going to go to your enterprise security and modify the KV store of your notables. Your KV store contains the comments, ownership, urgency level, status of your notables. And so in order to change those, you're not pointing to the indexer, you're pointing to the Splunk enterprise security instance that holds those KV stores. And so it's going to go find that enterprise security instance and modify the KV store. I'm not going to give it a description. I could, but now I come to my asset settings. I need an IP address. What's the IP address of my SOAR? It's right there. So I'm just going to copy that. You can take IP address, you can take the DNS name, whatever works to identify it. I'm going to use the default port 8089, and I'm going to put a username and a password in. Now I've given it a password. I don't need to use any API tokens, the owner context, that's all fine. Pick a time zone. I'm going to go GMT. Pick the time zone that makes the most sense. And then the last little piece you need to do is you come over to ingest settings. Don't worry about that. Okay. And what label do I want to apply? And I'm going to apply the events label. Hopefully you apply a little better, maybe something like enterprise security or whatever the case may be. And you know what? Just to show how to do that, let's go ahead. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to come back here to asset settings. I just want to make sure my connection works. Connectivity passed. So now I am able to communicate ES with my ES server. Now, I don't want that the event and events, so I'm going to duplicate this tab. I'm going to give myself some more labels to work with. So if I go to administration, there will be event settings, come down to label settings, and I'm going to add a label, and I'm going to call it ES. That way I'm not using these defaults. Now I can come back to this. I'm going to reload the page, so it always helps to reload just to make sure it grabs those new ones. I'm going to come over to ingest settings, and I'm going to edit, and I should be able to see ES. And now it's going to deal with it's going to use ES as its source. So anything coming from there will have the ES tag. Anyway, don't worry about it. It's not actually essential for the Splunk SOAR. I just like to not use the defaults. Anyway, we now have set up Splunk apps to talk to. Let's go back to my little slide here. We have moved down the chain. We have got Splunk talking to SOAR. SOAR is talking to Splunk. And so now we're going to want to configure a playbook. And so we are now down here on configuring playbooks. I'm going to come back here and let's go to playbooks. And I'm just going to go hit new playbook. and I'm going to call it, was an automation. I'm going to call it ZZZ update ES tickets. And I'm going to do on my settings, it's only going to handle ES events. I'm not going to make it active, and I'll tell you why I won't make it active, in the problems section. It would be nice if I could make them active, but it doesn't, it's not doing what I want it to do, so it's kind of a waste of time. So if I hit save, we're going to give it a setup, a playbook here. So, oops, I should have kept that tagged. I'm going to hit save again. Reuse, setup, save. Okay, now I'm going to draw down, and I want an action. And I want to grab my Splunk, and I'm going to do an update event. If you look here, it's going to say under what instance. I'm going to come here to go to Enterprise Security, and it's going to say what event do you want updated. And you're going to find that when you send in a Splunk event, it's going to give, when you send an event from Splunk ES, it's going to come with an event ID. So you're going to tell it, grab that event ID and update it. Unfortunately, that's not good enough. You're going to have to come down here, click this little check mark, grab any old artifact because you need that whole long name. And now I'm going to overwrite the very last and just put in event ID. So I just grabbed whatever field, didn't matter, just grabbed like application protocol, just so I'd have most of it written out. And then I just type in event ID on top of it. I can change owner, status, etc., or put a comment in. And I'm going to put a comment here, and I'm going to say, I updated the ticket. So that's going to set in a comment. This is an incredibly simple. We can go here and go, let's go closed. You can type in words. I'm going to assign it to people. I just type their names in, and it's just like that. And we just then draw that. We don't have to close this, but the part of me that just has to do it. Oh, why did you choose to change your name? Wow, I just lost. Okay, done. Hit done. Okay, now I can draw this down. Now the knees, but anyway, it's done. So this is a very, very simplistic playbook, but all it does is it takes this little action, which is a update event, which comes from the Splunk. I go in there, hit update event, select the asset, and as I said, I guess I'm doing it again since I undid it for me there. Click this checkbox so I can get all of these. I'm just going to grab that and go event ID. And there we go. And I'm going to put the status as closed. And we're going to put a message, ES handled this event. Hit done. We're done. That's all we need to do. We just hit save. All right. So we've done that piece. We've now configured playbooks. Now we need to set an adaptive response. And so to do that, we're now going to jump back to Enterprise Security. And so I'm going to come in here. I'm going to go to Enterprise Security. And I'm going to write a correlation search. So we're going to come down here, configure data enrichment. Oops, my bad. Content management. And I'm going to create new content. And I'm going to make a new correlation search. And I'm going to call it YouTube SOAR integration. App is Enterprise Security, context fine, demo for YouTube. And we're going to make something that doesn't make any sense, but I just want logs. And so I'm going to go index equals underscore internal, head 1, eval source IP equals 1, eval dest IP equals 2.2.2, table source IP, dest IP. All I'm doing is just getting some notable in there. And so I'm going to give it a time frame to run, and I want it to run in about 3 minutes. Let's go put it at 50 after. So that'll kick off in 4 minutes. We'll pause the video so you don't have to sit and wait for it to go off. And then I'm going to go hit a new adaptive response action. And I need to make sure I make it a notable. You will notice that you have the ability to send to Phantom, run playbook in SOAR, send to SOAR. There's a problem with that, and that's under this problem section. So I'm just going to skip that for now. Add a new response action, notable, and we're going to call it my demo on YouTube. I'm not going to give it a description. I'm not going to waste my time with any of that, and done. So this will kick off in 4 minutes. And so when I go into investigations, I'll have an alert, very basic, not a whole lot to do with it. But if I come under my incident review, in 3 minutes, I will have a new alert. So I'm going to pause and come back in 3 minutes. All right, we're back, and I have my demo on YouTube. That thing should look very familiar, 222.111, hi, etc. So, very simple. I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to do actions, run adaptive response actions. And the very first thing I'm going to do is the most simple, which is send it to Enterprise Security. And so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to run, I could choose a playbook, or I'm just going to send to SOAR. I want to send it to SOAR so you can see what's going on. Ultimately, you can choose just to run a playbook later. I'm going to send a sensitivity of red, a severity of high, and a label of ES. We're going to leave the container name alone, and we're going to run it. Run. Sends to SOAR. Now we close this. And if I jump over to my SOAR instance, I want to keep one of these open, so I don't care about label settings. Yeah, we can go move this. I'm going to come to sources. I should have an ES event for YouTube SOAR integration. There it is. Came in just a few seconds ago. And if I look at the artifacts, remember I said I needed an event ID? You come down here, there's that event ID. And if you notice, the event ID is actually made up of a few fields. So you've got this thing right here. It's made up of an event hash at the end, an index in the middle, and an indexer GUID at the beginning. So it's basically indexer GUID at index at event ID. So if you had the fields and you don't have an event ID, you could create one, but it comes in as an event ID. That's why I used event ID in my playbook. So now all I need to do is just come in here, grab this ID here, Control C, grabbed it. So I can now come in to my ticket, and I'm going to debugger just to prove it works. Actually, so I could go here and I could do all artifacts and put in this event ID and run it. And that's how I prefer to run it, so I see if any errors. But I can also come into the investigation and I can just hit playbook and choose my one at the very bottom, which is ZZZ. There's my update ES tickets, and I can run that one as well. And so if I hit run playbook, as long as there's no errors, it's always troubling when you do it on a live demo. Will it or will it not work? It worked, so we're good. But I'm going to do it again just so I can, on the other way, playbook over here. Oops, let's jump to the right place. So I'm in my, and I can hit test here and test that it's coming. You can see a bunch of things it's going. You can see all the This allows me to see what's happening. All right, so it's trying to connect. We have to wait for the connection to occur, and then it comes back. And you can get errors in there, nice and red, if it fails, and you'll actually know what to do if they fail. So anyway, let's go back and what should this have done? It should have closed the ticket and added ES handled this event to a comment. And so we're going to wait a minute, and then we're going to jump over to make sure it's there. So I jumped over here and I hit the refresh button, which I didn't need to pause the video. But anyway, you'll notice one of these is open and one of them is closed. I made two. One I sent with an adaptive response, one I didn't. Notice now I've got the one that I sent closed, and it's got a description, ES handled this event. Just that easily I can now send events. And I can have them open, close, and do etc. Now, wouldn't it be nice if this was automated? Well, we'll take one more step closer to being automated. So I could come in here, and because this is an ES label, I could go to my playbook, and I can actually turn this on, active, and any ticket like I did the last time will be sent in, and it will run this, and it'll do its job, and it'll come back and automatically update. That's cool. That's not a bad idea. I can do that. That's one way. The other one I can do is I can call a specific playbook. So how do I do that? Well, what we're going to do is we're going to come over here to Incident Review. We're going to open a new tab, and I need to update my playbooks. I mentioned it earlier about updating the playbooks, but I come into here, Splunk app for SOAR export. I need to sync the playbooks between Splunk and Phantom. And so if I come in here to configurations, I'm going to go hit this manage, and I'm going to hit sync playbooks. It's going to think for a minute and then sync them all. This now allows me to GUI my incident review. And so I'm going to go to my other ticket that hasn't been done yet. So this one that's in the status of new. And if I open this, actually I don't even need to open it. I can come here. I can do run adaptive response actions. Click this, and I can run a playbook in SOAR. It's going to ask me to pick my instance, which will be, and we can find ZZZ. There you go. There's my update ES tickets. I can put the red, high, put a label as ES, and I don't need to put a search name, don't need to do any of that. And I hit run. That should have gone to Phantom. Phantom will run it and send me back the results without ever having to do anything there. And one of the ways we can do it is we can see here, obtaining lists of adaptive responses. There it goes. We ran a playbook in SOAR. It was sent to SOAR and done. So if I refresh this page, notice it's not changing anything. Most likely I need to refresh to get those results. Now they are both closed. And they have the exact same comments. I actually don't know which one's which unless I look at these adaptive responses. This one was send to SOAR, run a playbook in SOAR, and I'm guessing the other one is well, they look almost identical. I just have to look at the time and when they were done. But anyway, both events can do this. Now that leads me to, that does this so you can do on a ticket by ticket basis. Now that leads me to the section where I'm going to call it problems. And we're going to cover the problems. So I've got my adaptive response done. Now we're going to cover problems. In the ideal world, wouldn't you be able to, you should be able to send your enterprise security tickets automatically to SOAR, and SOAR will handle which ones it can and update your tickets. There's a problem with that, and I'm going to show you. So if I come in here, and you notice when I sent my tickets to Phantom, and we come in here, we see all these fields. There's a ton of them. I'm going to come back here, and I'm going to go to my enterprise security playbook sync. We're going to come in here and we're going to go to Enterprise Security. There is a way to send them straight to Splunk right to begin with. I've put in tickets. I've worked with Admin on Demand. I've done some professional service. I have not got an answer to this. And so if you guys know or I get an update, I'll let you in on the trick to making this work. But you can come in here and we'll grab a correlation search. So we're going to go grab that correlation search that I've set up. Boy, I'm lagging out. Enabled. And I'm going to hit this YouTube SOAR integration. I'm going to come down to the bottom and do another adaptive response. I have my notable down here, but I can add send to Phantom. I could do either one. I could run a playbook in SOAR or send to Phantom. And so if I send to SOAR, I want to send to SOAR so you can actually see it in action. When I send to SOAR, we grab the instance. It's Phantom, severity, red, high. We're going to put a label as ES. Not going to do anything else, and I hit save. I'll need to just reconfigure my timer here so I get alert in. So this is set to go off at 50 minutes. Let's go grab it at 4 after. So I should have a ticket in a minute. I'm going to pause it, come back when I actually have the ticket in. All right, the time has come. I should have alert. Let's go validate that. So if I come back here, there's another video. Let's refresh this. Okay, so this one came in just a few seconds ago. If I look at it, what you'll notice, if I run a playbook, it does not show up in this queue, only when I send to SOAR. And so if I go here and I run the playbook, and I come in here and I check these artifacts, you'll notice this is dreadfully missing in details compared to the other one. So let's go back here and I'll jump over here and we'll go grab notes, sources, grab the other alert and grab its artifacts. Notice it's got multiple pieces here. And unfortunately, what the problem is, without this event ID, Splunk's SOAR doesn't know what to do. It's going to actually crash. And I probably should see that if I go look at activity. It didn't work. It didn't run it. It didn't know what to do with the event ID. It just can't go anywhere. And so this is the problem I found with Splunk Enterprise Security. In my mind, workflow should be you get an alert, you send it to SOAR, SOAR does its pieces automatically and the things it can handle. Never go into Enterprise Security. They just get closed or whatever the case may be, or they get closed there and the analysts don't see them. And only the things that SOAR can't handle and it's add information to or whatever, but when it's done with them, those go back to SOAR. That doesn't work, and it's because of the way SOAR does its correlation searches. It sends them basically in parallel. It'll send to SOAR at the same time it's creating the notable. The problem is it needs to create the notable and then send it to SOAR, and it has nothing to do with the way I order these. These run in parallel. And until the notable has been made, if you cannot get the data you need. And so unfortunately, you have to manually go into SOAR and trigger them. You have to go to the alert and set the adaptive response. It's not the end of the world. And when I'm looking at the positive side, I can select multiple alerts. Like I could go pretty much grab every alert that's open. And then if I'm not mistaken, I can take an action on them and run the adaptive response. I'm not 100% sure. You might have to go to each one of them. Never done it. I have a different way of doing this, but the point is you're kind of stuck going down the line and sending them off to Phantom if you want Phantom to update your ticket. And so that's a problem. I'm waiting for Splunk to come back with a solution that seems to work really well in an automatic format. I have a method. If you're interested in it, watch the next video in this playlist and it will show you my solution to doing it. But I'm not, this video is already long enough. So anyway, I hope this helps you. We'll go quickly. We have covered how to set up connections. We've got Splunk going to SOAR, SOAR going to Splunk. We configured a playbook to modify the KV store, which is your status, your whether the status, the comments, and everything to a notable. We set an adaptive response so that you can actually send these things to Phantom. And the only problems we got is it doesn't want to work in an automatic way in the sense of the flow being create a notable, have a correlation search that sends all of your notables to Splunk, and then Splunk updates all your notables. I do have a solution to that, as I said. Watch my next video and I'll point you to that. Hope this was helpful. Hope this helps move you from being a lame analyst to a Splunk ninja, and I hope you keep coming back.